Good afternoon, fellow artists. Today we are starting a unit based on music and art and how those two intertwine together to be able to make artwork that is meaningful. So, this unit is going to be called Feel the Beat Influential Musicians for Art 1 and 2. So, let's go ahead and jump right into this. I'm very excited about this unit as some of our other fellow classmates are as well. So, I'll try to make this as short as possible for you. What we are going to learn in this unit is we will be able to redesign a record cover of an influential musician in history. That does not mean we're going to look at a picture of an album cover and make it. We are completely redesigning an album cover from scratch for a musician. We will also be able to create and explain connections between artists and social, cultural history, whether that be through musicians or visual artists. And last, we will be able to question how art influences our outlook on varying experiences. How do our personal experiences or experiences of others affect the way we interpret music and interpret art? The vocabulary we'll be learning in this art unit is going to be culture, color theory, which will include the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, as well as what is the difference between warm and cool colors. We will also be covering the element of balance in artwork. We'll go ahead and start off with culture. What is culture to you? In this definition here, culture are the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. So think about what the culture is in America. How do people perceive us? What about your own personal culture? You live in Bismarck, in this area. Is there a specific culture, a specific set of customs, arts, and social institutions that partake in this specific place, such as the school itself? Think about those things. Now, as we jump into the idea of culture, we're jumping deeper into the idea of what is music culture and what influences that music culture. In America, we have a very diverse group of people who also include their very own diverse set of music cultures, whether that be through genres like rock, jazz, pop, hip hop, rap, or whether that be through the area that you live in. I know in these areas, rap, hip hop tend to be fairly huge, as well as country, two very different music cultures in a small area. So think about what surroundings influences these type of music expectations, influences, and culture. We're going to start off in the 60s with the Beatles. As we're looking at album covers, notice how different they may be as the time progresses. We have the Beatles in the 60s. On the left-hand side, we have the Beatles and their album Abbey Road. This is a very different appearance than the one on the right-hand side, which is the Beatles and the Yellow Submarine. They, in turn, have reflected their psychedelic feeling of their album itself and have created an almost cartoon like album design for the right hand side. On the left hand side, however, they have used photography to capture the stillness and the iconic image of them crossing Abbey Road. In the 70s, we have Pink Floyd. Now, these are two very different images, but in this time period, Pink Floyd was a very huge band solely because of how their music was different. It was experimental, it was rock, but as you look at their album covers as well, the Dark Side of the Moon, the one with the triangle and the rainbow, very simple design, but it is also a very iconic design in itself. People recognize that album right off the bat. So that's something to take into account as we're thinking about how we're going to design our own record label or cover, I'm sorry. The image on the right hand side is labeled Wish You Were Here. That is the title of one of their songs. Here you see two businessmen dressed up to the nines, but one of them is on fire as he's shaking the other businessman's hand. What do you think that entails? What does that mean to you when you look at this album cover? What feeling, what emotion does it give you? Now we hop over to the 80s. We have rap and hip hop emerging in this time period. We have on the left hand side NWA. We also have on the right hand side Public Enemy. Two very different bands or groups of people making music in this emergent field of rap. On the left hand side, you see the album cover, and the group of people is surrounding you, looking down at you, almost being confrontational, right? Because in this time period, rap and hip hop was covering things such as the police and brutality and social justice issues as well going on in their specific communities. Although their message was not entirely positive, they did influence what we know as hip hop and rap today, which is why they are up on my slides. On the right hand side, we have Public Enemy. Their designs vary from album to album, but are very outright with their message. It gives you right off the bat a certain feeling, a certain emotion of distortion, of uneasiness, anything of that matter. In this specific one, we have a baby and a bunch of red hands surrounding the baby. What is going on? What do you think the message is? At the bottom of the album, it says the cheapest price to pay is attention. And it repeats that over and over again. So, what is that meaning that they are trying to get across through the text and the imagery that you see here? As we're crawling closer to our present time, we have a Nirvana album cover as well as a Green Day album cover. Both bands are pretty similar with one another. The one on the left hand side was pretty controversial in itself because you have a nude baby swimming in a swimming pool going after corporate dollars. So they were definitely had their opinions about corporations and the greediness within society. So that is Nirvana for you and their album cover. We also have Green Day over on the right hand side. They always have something political to say over society or what is going on in present times. So their album cover is pretty comic like, it is very illustrative. There's a lot going on, but in some way, it still tells a story. This band is still around. They make musicals as well as new music. Very influential band in itself, but very different covers as we go along and look at these. Now we will hop over to present time. On the left hand side, we have Childish Gambino. I believe the name of the album was To My True Love. And then on the right hand side, we have Lady Gaga, whose new album is Chromatica. They are both very set in a dystopian world where everything seems a little dark in a way. But if you take a look at Childish Gambino's album cover, you can see that this person almost gives you a very sense of fear or uneasiness just because of the way of the expression of the face is giving off, as well as the colors, right? The colors that are being used are dark. There's nothing but blues and blacks and maybe a little bit of whites to highlight what is going on a bit. Not a lot of color, not a lot of content, but it still gives you that feeling of uneasiness that he's reaching for, especially when it comes to some of his music. Lady Gaga, on the other hand, influential artist as well. She likes to touch on topics of self love as well as throwing out positivity to the LGBTQIA community. She is a great advocate for that. On this album cover itself, she is in a very dystopian world, but she is still looking glamorous. She's trapped. What could that mean? Why is the pink being used? Why are there so many dark colors around her? Just something, again, to think about as we are picking musicians that are influential in our lives, as well as thinking about how we're going to redesign an album cover for them. Now, this is Childish Gambino. I will warn, I'm going to show you a little snippet of his song from 2018. It's called This Is America. And this song particularly touches on the topic of uh, gun violence as well as the the black community and how he feels they are being treated. It's just something to kind of pay attention to. This was published by the Washington Post, so I'll go ahead and enlarge this for you. Childish Gambino's video, This Is America, gives a chilling look at the nation's state. The artist, aka Donald Glover, dances in a peculiar way before shooting his first victim. A pretty dramatic way to start off the music video. Notice how much care is given to the gun, not the victim. The shootings evoke imagery of terrorism, specifically in the 2015 attack at a Charleston church. Glover and a group of teens continue dancing after the violence, which has been interrupted by a few things going on in the background. So notice what's going on back there with the rioting and the fires and the craziness. So he's commenting on how Black communities specifically deal with trauma and try to cover that up with all of this going around. All the cars are older models in the background in a contrast to the flashy luxury cars that you normally see in music videos. And then here you see him running for his life. Many have compared the scene to Get Out and a portion of that. So here we have an artist who not only is creating artwork for the sake of making music, but also for commenting on things of, again, importance to him and to other people, talking about those social justice issues, talking about police brutality, talking about how we see luxury in the world and things of that nature. So, as again, we are picking out those influential artists, we want to keep in mind what artists out there that we really relate to have made that impact in the world, have made that impact in our lives. Now, influential artists on a deeper level, these are questions you want to ask yourself. How do you connect to the musician? How did the musician influence you? And then on a personal note, how has the musician impacted your perspective on things such as social, politics, personal life, etc.? Here on the left-hand side, I have personally picked out Selena, who is now passed away for 20 years. She was one of the first Mexican American female artists to cross over into the American music industry. For me personally, she was always a musician that made me believe that uh, coming from nothing, you can go and work hard and make your dreams come true. So for me, it was being an artist and also becoming an art teacher. And although those may not seem glamorous to many people, it seemed like a very big challenge for me, coming from a background where I am first generation here in the country. I am the first to graduate from my family and go on to college. So Selena really opened my eyes. And she also showed a lot of people that you can be accepted in both countries. I've had times where I've felt like an outcast here and an outcast in Mexico. I'm just seen as a different person, and not everyone has that same view. Yes, but Selena again crossed those borders right into the music industry, and she really made a lot of people feel accepted for who they were and what they could become. So that was my choice there. So this is your introduction into design your own record cover. We will be using acrylic paints to paint actual record covers here, but if you are learning from home, you may use things like colored pencils, pens, paints, watercolors, anything that you have on hand, and do this on something like cardboard, wood, or paper, whatever you have on hand. But this is just an introduction on what is to come. Start thinking about the musician you'd like to pick out, and from there, I will see you shortly, and I